You are listening to the On Purpose Podcast, your guide to living a more purposeful life. Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. As always, I'm honored and humbled to be here with you. I appreciate your support and your contributions to helping us continue to grow our purposeful community around the world. Remember, there's a couple ways you can pay back the show for any value you're getting from it. And, the first off is to like and subscribe, to share our podcast so that more people know we're out here, and those in your world that you think could benefit from our messages are finding them. And then the other way is to join us over on Patreon, where you can actually contribute financially to help us continue to market, grow, upgrade our show, and reach our goal of being one of the most inspirational, influential podcasts in the world. I don't necessarily care if we're the biggest, but I want us to be making an impact and making a difference. And that's how you can help me do that, is by visiting us at patreon.com/The On Purpose Podcast. Check out our membership options and see if something fits your budget and can help us continue to grow. So we appreciate all of you that are already Patreon members, and there's different benefits they get there. And one of those benefits is this week's episode, and that is being able to correspond with us and communicate and give us ideas for episodes you would like to hear about. And this week's episode comes from one of our Patreons and my sister-in-law, who I've been blessed to know now for over 23 years, and that's Missy Brand. And this took place because we were recently having a conversation about navigating changes in your relationships and how to do so as adults and as we continue to evolve, both individually and in our partnerships. How do you structure a decision-making process for the changes in your relationships? And I'll tell you my thoughts on this and how I have my 3 questions that I'll share later in the show of how Andrea and I decide if we're going to make what decision we're going to make at certain points in our life has been brought about by change. You know, as a parent, when you're actively parenting and your kids are in a home, like, that's 99% of your focus is doing what's necessary to provide for them, both in their day-to-day life and for their future. You know, how many hours do I need to work to make sure we're financially secure for the future? What do I need to earn to put them into sports or the programs that give them the best options? What school do they need to go to? Should we move to a new neighborhood? You know what I mean? Just so many of our day-to-day decisions are not based upon ourselves. And what I found interesting is, as Andrea and I approached our kids leaving the home, we suddenly found, wait a second, now I have time to decide for me, and I have time to decide for us. And it was very important for us to come back together as a couple and make sure we were on the same page and make sure that we had couple goals. I've seen just so many people, you know, in my circle, that once the kids are raised and they're moved out of the house, they end up in divorced or in very unhappy marriages because they're not growing anymore. There's no commonality. The common bond for many years was simply raising the kids. And now that they're gone, it's almost like they're going through the motions of a marriage or a relationship or, quite honestly, a life. And I couldn't think of anything worse to do with the blessing of my life and the blessing of the partnership I have with Andrea than to go through the motions without growing together. So we started coming up with things, and really a lot of it was through pain. You know, like many of you know, I owned a mixed martial arts gym for a period of 5 years, you know, towards the end of my police career and early into my retirement. And with the story you don't know behind that is that was completely my idea. It was something I wanted to do. It was a dream I had. Andrea was nothing she ever wanted. She would have vehemently Funny word there. I like that word, though. She would have argued against it. She didn't want to be tied down to another thing. She was aching for freedom once the kids left. And here I was, because we didn't communicate about it. We weren't having a clear-cut process of how we're going to make decisions that impact each other in the future. I made a decision to pursue a dream. And now, while I don't regret pursuing dreams, and I think we should all do it, I think I could have done it much better had I included her. And had we shared a little more and known a little bit more about what owning that particular business would mean for our lives. So we were determined to continue to grow as a couple and to continue to share dreams and have dreams and not rest on who we were, but continue to aspire to who we could become, both individually and together. It was our intention to thrive in our lives once our children left our home, to still inspire them to continue to want more in their own lives by seeing their parents living their lives to the fullest. And, you know, that led to us eventually selling the gym, selling our home, and for the last over a year now, by the time you hear this episode, we've been living out of our Airstream and traveling the country. And that required compromise. That required us to get on the same page, because while that was a dream Andrea had, it was never one of my dreams. And I did a whole episode on the importance of being part of other people's dreams, even if they're not yours at times, and what it can open up for you. So by agreeing with her and by sitting down and structuring out, okay, this is what she wants to do and this is why she wants to do it, I found the value in it. And it required me to get uncomfortable and learn new skills in order to help make her dream come true. But we created a framework of how do we decide which decisions to take on as a couple, which decisions to turn down, because we both have dreams. We're going to continue to have dreams, but what we've realized is that we both should be on board, right? Because if I have a dream of owning a business, or I have a dream of doing a certain thing, and Andrea doesn't understand her role in that dream, she doesn't understand why it's important to me, or what doors it could potentially open for her, well, now we have a split, right? And that's what we are trying to avoid at this second, what I kind of said, the second chapter of our marriage, right? The kids was the first, and now this is the second, because we had them so young, is division and being on the same page. So we boil it down to three things. And we ask ourselves, so any opportunity, right? Because I'm a big opportunity person. I believe opportunities come to through various means, and the universe will just present things. And I used to just love having lots of opportunities and committing to a lot of things. And unfortunately, you know, some I had to turn down, some I had to back out on. Maybe I just wasn't very good at them, or I had too much on my plate. And that's, you know, a fault of mine, is thinking I can do a lot of things. And sometimes I could, but at this stage in life, it doesn't benefit us. So we came up with 3 questions that we ask ourselves and we look at, and we both have to agree upon the answer. And the first is, does it allow us freedom? Does whatever we're being proposed or pitched or thinking of doing, does it allow us freedom? And right now, we're looking at freedom on a couple levels. First off, mobility. Does it allow me the freedom to be mobile? Can we still live out of our Airstream? Can we still travel the country? Because the more we've seen, the more we want to see. So does it allow me freedom of mobility and movement? Second is financial freedom. What's the cost associated, and does it take away from my financial freedom, or does it incur debt? Right now, we're blessed to be living a life that's completely debt-free. We owe nothing to no one. And that's very important to us. So does it allow the freedom of mobility, and does it allow me financial freedom? If we can look at whatever we're thinking about and say, yes, it allows us the freedom, both mobility and financial, Then we'll continue on to our second question is, will we learn something new? Right? I am a big believer in learning, and I love the quote that says, the more you learn, the less you know. So our second pillar is, are we going to be learning something new? I don't want to keep doing the stuff I've already done. Like, there's a reason I've done that part of my life already. I don't need to repeat it. I want new adventures. I want new challenges. I want new ideas. Part of what even got me intrigued on living in the Airstream and selling our stuff and being mobile nomads, if you will, is the fact I was going to learn so much new things that I had never done. And quite honestly, I was never, one, very interested in, or two, probably going to be very good at initially. Like, I would have to work. So will we learn? So our first question is, does it allow us freedom? Second one is, will we learn? Right? And like, by the time you hear this, we'll have finished our summer job at the Sick and Twisted Brewery and Naughty Winery in Hill City, South Dakota, which was awesome. I got to learn about brewing beers, and Andrea learned a lot about wine tastings and all the different grapes and all that. And I drove forklifts and so many new things to learn. It was a great time. But when we're asked if you're going to come back next summer, when we go to our pillars of questions, we make it the second one, will we learn something new? It doesn't appear that's going to be a yes, right? Because we've done almost everything they have to offer this summer. So while the experience was great, I don't know we'll do it again because I want to learn something new. So does Andrea. We want to go do something new. So the first one is, does it allow us freedom? The second one is, will we learn? And the third one is one of the most important for me at this age in life is, will we have fun? Is what we're going to do going to be enjoyable? Will we have fun? Is it a good environment? Am I going to be able to meet new people and enjoy the people I'm around? Am I seeing new things? Is it going to be fun? Because we've already done the career for 21 years. We've already went through the school system of, having been on a schedule from fall till spring and when your breaks are, and your kids have to do certain things, and like the structure that takes some of the fun out of life, some of the spontaneity. And at this stage, we want to have fun. If I'm going to do something, if we're going to invest our time, our bodies, our energy into something, I want the tangible reward of enjoyment. Simple as that. So after 23 years of marriage and 26 years being together, we're still redefining ourselves and our relationship. We're redefining our goals, our dreams, what we want to do together. And we found that this format helps us stay on the same page. It helps us find common ground in each other's dreams. It helps us know how to support each other. So the three questions we ask: does it allow us freedom, both mobility and financial? Will we learn something new? And the final question is, are we going to have fun? And then we both have to say yes to all three answers, or all three questions. We both have to answer yes to all three, or we cannot do it. If either of us say no to either of the three, then it's a no for both of us. And so far, it's worked out great. And I want to thank Missy for the conversation and inspiring this podcast. I remind all of you, please jump over to patreon.com/The On Purpose Podcast and contribute to helping me grow this On Purpose community around the world. Again, my goal is not to be the biggest podcast with all the blue check marks. I want to be the impactful podcast, one people listen to and know they're going to have a difference in their day. So I want to thank all of you for listening in and being part of this amazing community. Have an awesome week, and we'll catch you next week. And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.